I had a weird dream the night before, and like somebody was trying to take me away. I remember something like, I tell people, like, I don't know if it was like some type of creature, aliens or something, but like just a lot of them were trying to take me, and I was resisting as best I could. And I woke up and it just was a bad dream. So that morning on my way to work, I never realized that I was being followed by several cars. When I opened the door to see who was this, what's going on, like why are they coming to arrest me this way, like I was just lost and scared. And it wasn't until they pulled me into an interrogation room with the big mirror and the table and then two detectives and myself, and finally hit me with it, and they said that I was being arrested for the murder of a 16-year-old girl. I saw a judge the next day, and that's when I was told that I was looking at capital murder, and if found guilty, may face the death penalty. That scared the crap out of me. I was there for about 6 months. He ends up finding out that HBO and Larry David happens to be filming an episode at Dodger Stadium on my section. Now, when I think about that, it gives me goosebumps. There's cameras, and I thought, wow, like, how cool is this? They're filming something, and I said, let me get in front of the camera. But joking around, never imagining that, it would help prove my innocence.
This episode is brought to you by Go High Level. If you're a business owner who is tired of duct taping together 5 different platforms just to run your company, this is your solution. Website, CRM, funnels, email, calendar bookings, ManyChat, text marketing, automations, memberships, landing pages, voice AI, and so much more, all in one place. When I moved everything over, I was able to cancel multiple subscriptions and save over $1,000 a month. Memberships start at just $97 a month. And if you run multiple businesses, they've got you covered there too. High performance requires clean systems, visibility, and control. Go High Level gives you the infrastructure to scale without chaos, freeing up time to focus on what matters most in your business. Normal trials are 14 days. Go High Level is offering my audience a free 30-day trial. Link is in the show notes.
Juan Catalan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I met you in San Diego. I can't believe how long ago that was, like 6 months ago. And I heard your story, and it was so jarring to me to hear, first of all, just to feel how gentle your energy was. And at the same time, hear these words of what was done to you in 2003. I got to say, like, I was so jarred by the whole thing. And the event we were at, we immediately broke for lunch. And I remember sitting at lunch talking about you to these 4 people that were with me. And then here you walk in to this restaurant that was like 5 blocks away from the venue. And those types of things happen to me all the time. I feel like there's just an energetic pull. I knew that I was supposed to meet you. I knew that I was supposed to have this conversation and share it with the world and with my network. So thank you so much for being here. I want to jump right into it. Can you take us back to that day in 2003? You were picked up and arrested and accused of falsely of murdering a teenage girl, Martha Puebla, in Los Angeles on 2003. So can you take us back to that day when the cops rolled up?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, so this particular day, I had a weird dream the night before, and like somebody was trying to take me away. I remember something like, I tell people, like, I don't know if it was like some type of creature, aliens or something, but like just a lot of them were trying to take me, and I was resisting as best I could. And I woke up and it just was a bad dream. So that morning on my way to work, I never realized that I was being followed by several cars. We pulled into the parking. I was getting dropped off at work with my dad, and I saw in the rear view mirror, on the side mirror, because I was in the passenger side, some car just cut us off violently. And I said, who does that at 7, 8 in the morning? Like, we didn't do anything. And I had my 5-year-old daughter in the back seat. So when I opened the door to see who was this, I was staring down the barrel of a gun, and I froze. I thought that was it. Like, I was dead, I said. And I froze. And because this guy, white guy, he had no resemblance, no signs of law enforcement, nothing. It's just, he jumped out of his car and he's like pointing a gun at me. And, within a matter of seconds, it seemed like an eternity to me, but within a matter of seconds, I was completely surrounded and they started yelling at me. So when they started giving me orders, I knew that they were indeed law enforcement. They ordered me to the ground. I followed orders, and the more they talked, they kind of like surrounded me, got on top of me, and they had like a printout sheet of my face from just dumb things that I did when I was younger. And, they're like, this is the guy. So I was like, thinking like, what's going on? Like, why are they coming to arrest me this way? Like, I had a court case that had to do with my brother because he was involved in a serious crime. So I kind of like took the blame for him so my dad wouldn't get in trouble. And yeah, I was like, I'm following orders. I had a court date on this particular case. So I'm following orders. I'm like, why are they coming at me this way? And with the scandal and everything, my dad was already inside, but since it was kind of cold, he had the doors closed and he heard the commotion and he came out and he like looked outside. And I remember looking at him and I said, Dad, I remember I was like yelling out to him. I said, Dad, look what they're doing to me. And they yelled at him to close the door. He went back in, but the embarrassment and the humiliation because all this time we're like an industrial park and my neighbors who I've known for years, they're watching all this happen. And they're like, I could just imagine what was going through their mind. Like Juan, who we thought, who is he or something? And I was picked up, I was put in the back of one of their vehicles and I was taken down to the Hollywood police station. I was held there for about 6 hours without being told what I was there for. And I was just lost and scared. And it wasn't until they pulled me into an interrogation room, what the ones you see in the movies, with the big mirror and the table and then two detectives and myself. And they finally hit me with it. And they said that I was being arrested for the murder of a 16-year-old girl.
And what did you say to them?
I stood quiet. I was speechless. And I was like trying to comprehend and understand, like, is this really happening right now? Like, there's no way. Like, I knew I was innocent, but it just couldn't be. And the more that they kept talking, I asked them that it was impossible, or I told them that it was impossible and that they had the wrong person. But they started giving me and showing me what ended up being false evidence. They had they're called six packs, which, six faces of different people. And I was in every one of them, but my picture was circled with comments in English and Spanish. One of them said, like, this is the guy I saw shoot my neighbor. Another one in Spanish, like, este es el muchacho que miré que mató a la muchacha. Like, this is the guy I saw that killed the girl. And I'm just completely confused and lost. And like, this is impossible. I kept repeating it over and over that I hadn't done anything, that I was innocent, that this was like a big mistake. And they're like, no, it's you. Just, confess and we'll talk to the judge and have them take it easy on you. And I'm like, they kept repeating it so much that I got fed up and I told them to stop saying that. And I yelled at them that those were very strong words. I said, stop saying that. I didn't do this. Like, I wouldn't do this. I have 2 daughters. It wasn't me. And I told them ultimately that they were making the biggest mistakes of their careers and they didn't believe me.
Yeah. So how long did they had you in the interrogation room for how long?
The interrogation room, there's probably I want to say about 30 to 40 minutes. So they talked to me for about 15, 20, and then they take a break and then they came back. So, from what I've learned and everything is why they do that is they talk to you and then they want to, feel you out and then they walk away, but they're watching you from the other side of that mirror, just your expressions and whatnot. So once they came back and, I just insisted I was innocent and they said, okay, you don't want to confess, you're being booked. And then I was transferred to another jail, the Van Nuys jail here all in
That same
LA.
day? Like,
Yeah, the
that
same
day
day.
they took you to
Mhm.
another place? Okay.
Yeah, I was transferred with 3 or 4 officers to this other jail and I was talking to every one of them to see anybody believe me, and they just told me, shut the hell up. And I made it to the other jail. I was fingerprinted, mugshots and everything. And I remember the female officer who was doing the fingerprinting, I told her, please, you need to believe me, I'm innocent. And she kind of paused what she was doing. And then, I'll never forget what she said. She said, just pray. She told me, just pray. And yeah, I went to jail, stayed there for about a day. I saw a judge the next day, and that's when I was told that I was looking at capital murder and, if found guilty, may face the death penalty. That scared the crap out of me. I was on the news that night. My family member started calling my mom, telling her, "Hey, what's going on? We just saw Juan on the news." And I'm like, I couldn't understand for the life of me why that was happening. I'm a big believer in karma, and I didn't understand it at the moment. I was transferred down to Men's Central County Jail, which is like one of the most dangerous jails in the country. And I had it was interviewed, and then I was put in jail with with like probably the most violent inmates there.
Were you in max security? Were you, like, with, like, the real murderers?
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So within a flash, you're arrested, you talk to the judge, you're transferred to max security with all these big time criminals. So did they give you a lawyer? Did you, like,
So
how did you
when you
defend?
see a
Yeah.
judge, since it's so all that happened, so from the time I was arrested to the time I made it down to Men's Central Jail, that was about 3 days. So in that span, you have a court date before they can send you down to the county jail. So that you need to go in front of a judge. Unless you know you're gonna be arrested, you can hire a private attorney, but I had no idea. So they give you a state appointed, what are they called? Like a public defender. So this person is the one who tells you what you're being charged with and what is the penalties or whatnot and what you're facing. And when he told me, hey, they say that you killed this girl, they have a eyewitness, they have an informant, and I was just like, he was saying it like if he was just reading like a newspaper, and I'm over here like, inside like dying of just like what was happening. I just couldn't. I was just beyond myself of what I was going through.
And I imagine, like, the majority of the people that he talks to probably are guilty saying that they're not guilty, right?
Yeah, everyone inside there says they're innocent.
Yeah, yeah. So now you're in max security, and he's telling you that you may be hit with a death penalty. Best case scenario, life in prison, 25 years.
With no possibility of parole. Yes, just I'll die in prison.
You're gonna die.
In
The
prison.
life as you know it is over. This is your new
That's it.
life.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Best case scenario.
like, did you think that you need to get a better lawyer, or did somebody tell you you need to get a lawyer, or
That
what?
that didn't cross my mind initially. I was just trying to still process what was going on because, it went from the first day to the second to the third and on and on. And it wasn't until so when I got down to the county jail, the questions they ask you, like, are you a gang member? You have any enemies? Do you fear for your life? Do you have suicidal thoughts? All these are like preparing you to go into, the depths of hell. And it's like, I'm like, I
Why
was
am I
just
here?
stuck.
Why am I here? Yeah,
And
like,
then
I still don't understand why I'm here.
after the interview, they just on the top of my hand here, they just wrote a big 187, which is the penal code for homicide, for murder. And people saw that, other inmates, and they were like, they didn't want to sit next to me. So in a weird way, that kind of like in there, in the criminal world, that gave me like a badge of honor, which was weird. And there was just
Yeah,
one
kept you
big
alive, right?
yeah, there
Kept you
was just
safe.
one big guy that was, like, tattooed from his head up, and I thought that he was wanted to mess with me because he kept staring at me, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just got in here, and I'm already gonna have, a problem." So he looked at me and he goes, "Hey," and I looked at him, he goes, "Hey, they don't want you to go home." Like, meaning, like, because they were charging me with murder, they wanted me to just my life was gonna end there. So I just cut that conversation, and then when I got into the dorm, there's rows of cells in there, and then there's dorms. So because those places are so overcrowded, as soon as you get there, they just throw you in wherever they can find a place. So I was put in this dorm that's meant to house only about 50, 60 inmates. There was probably about 120 in there. It's just like triple bunks all throughout the dorm. And then there's people with super, I don't know, 1 inch, 2 inch thick mattresses, which is basically you feel like you're just on the concrete. And that's how I came in. I got one of those. But again, with that number on my hand, nobody was, like wanted to talk to me. And immediately I was transferred into what's called high power. And that's where, you have like mob, like figures and like the most violent of violent. And I'm like, wow, like, It's just basically like 6x9 individual cells. And all you can see is you have your cement bed, your toilet, sink, and then there's bars in front of you. And then there's like a huge mirror in front. And behind there is a catwalk. And it's just this whole row of cells. And it's just deputies, sheriffs on behind there, just walking back and forth looking at us. You just, all you see is your reflection, bars are in your reflection. So I was put in there and I started being asked questions by the inmates. And I was actually worried because in jail, there's certain rules that they don't tolerate, like rape or snitching or violence against children or kids. So I started thinking about like, wait a minute, I'm being charged with killing a 16-year-old girl. Like if somebody finds out what I'm in there for, like is my life in danger? So, I was like trying to just my thinking just went straight into survival mode. Like just you need to survive. And that's basically what I had to do I got into a couple of fights because you cannot be taken advantage of yourself in there, because if you don't stand up for yourself, everyone takes advantage of you. So I got into a couple of fights just trying to, for the most part, I just wanted to stay to my own. I don't like, besides, and regularly, I don't care. I don't get into other people's business, whatever you're doing, to each their own. But so, in there's people that like to instigate stuff. And, I just had to, it was like I was basically walking on eggshells because I couldn't talk to anyone who I wanted. People were trying to make conversation with me. I didn't really want to say much. So they took it like, oh, you think you're tough or whatever. And then there's the racial tensions. That's another aspect. Like on a daily basis, it's just like, because it's segregated by races. And it's just like, oh my gosh, the jail politics is just a nightmare. Like I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And it's a hellhole. I don't know how else to call it.
Did you sleep at all like the first couple of weeks?
No, I don't think I slept the whole time. I was there for about 6 months. I didn't, and I lost about 20 pounds. And I was eating every day. Like, how does that happen? Can you imagine somebody comes out with some program, says, hey, you can eat whatever you want and you'll still lose weight? I'm like, sign me up. But that's what I was doing. I was eating. They give you breakfast. And then for lunch, you get like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with like an apple and a juice. And then you get dinner. So I was eating all my meals, and how am I still losing weight? But it's the power of the mind and the stress that was just eating me literally up. I just, and I didn't even realize it. It was some guy that I befriended in there that I got comfortable with. And, he was I appreciate that guy so much because, he's like, hey, I got your back, because in there you need someone to, at least to cover your back, if anything. And they move you around so much because I found out that, they get paid when they move the inmates around. So you're constantly on the move. You can be here 1 week, then they transfer you to another jail the next week, and then you'll be there for 2 weeks, then they transfer you back. You'll be here for 3 weeks, transfer you back. And I was just like back and forth, back and forth. So the few people that I like, that less than a handful of people that I got familiar with, before you knew it, I was gone. But then you could cross paths again. And this guy that I crossed paths with, he's like, hey, man, you're like wasting away. I go, what do you mean? He goes, every time I see you, you're skinnier. I'm like, what? And I couldn't see myself. Like, you're lucky if you get to shower once a week in there. And you're let out rarely out into the yard, which you can play basketball, or just people just want to be out of their cells and see the sun and, walk and breathe fresh air. And I remember we got let out one day and they had a scale there. So I just got on the scale and I think I went in weighing about 185 pounds. And at that point, when I weighed myself, it freaked me out when I saw that I was 167. I was like, holy crap, like what the? And, and then I was like, that's why he was telling me, because I had lost 20 pounds without really, it was just, it's very weird. So I know my mind is powerful. When I put something in my head, it was just, I guess, the constant worry and stress of what I was facing.
Yeah, from all angles. Oh my gosh. So you were basically just in holding. They didn't sentence you to anything at that point. What were they doing? Were they investigating or were
It
they?
was supposedly they were investigating,
Okay.
and when in reality they didn't do much. We found this out later, and in between there, I hired this amazing attorney, Todd Melnick, to represent me, and I met him through a cousin of mine, which was a blessing. I know now that nothing happens for a reason. I know it. And, I was supposed to meet this man. This man was put in my life to help prove my innocence, to save my life. And he's an incredible attorney. This man is like the definition of what a lawyer should be. And besides being an amazing attorney, he's a better human being. He's, a complete stranger. I can say that the person who has done more for me in my life is a complete stranger, who is that man.
It's funny how that tends to be the more common person that is in everybody's
Yeah,
life that
yeah,
does
and it's
something
like,
pretty big
wow,
for them, right?
I
Yeah.
would think that'd be maybe my partner or my family,
Yeah.
somebody no, it's like this complete stranger. But yeah, so this whole time we hired Todd, my dad, like with so much through hard work and just, like sacrifice, we were able to retain Todd. I told him what had happened. This whole time I'm in there and he's just going investigating. I told him that I thought that the day in question that I was at a Dodger game, that I thought, which was crazy because it seemed like Dodger Stadium is my second home, but that I could have been caught on camera, which they were filming this day, which was another crazy story. And, he just, as I was, doing my time waiting for all this to play out, he was behind the scenes doing just an amazing job.
Yeah. And so he went and looked for the footage
Yes, he went and
because
looked
they
for it.
were doing some other filming that day. Can you
Yeah,
talk a
because
little bit about that?
yeah, I got arrested 3 months after all this. So I had no
Oh,
idea.
3 months after.
Yes, 3
Okay.
months after. So this
Wow,
thing
yes,
that
that's why you're like, "I could have been at a game,"
yes,
like,
this
don't know if you
happened.
have proof or
This
not.
game that I was caught on TV, which I thought was May 12th, I was arrested August 12th, 3 months
Oh
after.
my gosh.
So I was by hoping and praying that by the grace of God that it was that day. I just had an idea, the thinking, you know what? Could it been that day? Like, please be that day. And he ends up finding out that HBO and Larry David, who I was embarrassed to say I didn't know who that was, the creator of Seinfeld. He's a comedic
Curb Your
genius.
Enthusiasm, yeah, yeah.
Yes, Curb Your Enthusiasm happens to be filming an episode at Dodger Stadium on my section. Now, when I think about that, it gives me goosebumps because, first of all, I didn't have tickets for that game. Those tickets were given to me the morning of by a customer we work with who called me that Monday morning to say, "Hey, I have 4 tickets. I cannot go. Do you want them?" So that was number one. Number two was out of 60,000 seats in that stadium, they happened to be on my aisle. I could have been sitting anywhere else in the stadium and I would not have been caught on camera, which blows my mind. And the third piece was the a cell phone call because Todd, being the incredible attorney he is, every clip and from TV and movie is time coded. So this murder apparently happened about 10:40 at night. The last time code was at about 9:11. So the prosecution was going to contend that I had, what is that, an hour and a half to, that they figured that was using that as an alibi. That, I put myself at Dodger Stadium, but then I still had all this time to leave and commit this crime, which was false. But, Todd had to, work and jump over hurdles and get court orders to look at cell phone information, to go to HBO, to like stuff that just doesn't happen. And, he was just like on a mission and I cannot thank him enough. But the way that everything had to line up. And it was just, from other interviews that we've done, they're like, what are the odds all that happening and coming together for you? It's like beyond winning, the odds are beyond the lottery or the Powerball and all that stuff. And it's just, another one of the OJ Simpson detectives, Mark Furman, we did a piece for 60 Minutes, and he said that usually when somebody gets involved in something like that or accused or whatever, it's almost impossible of them getting out of it. So for Juan, speaking of myself, he was speaking of me. He's like, for him, he was incredibly blessed and lucky. I met him. He actually gave me a book. It was surreal, like just experience.
So your lawyer went back and looked at cell phones, looked at the dates, realized that Larry David was filming Curb Your Enthusiasm in your section, and lo and behold, HBO had a video clip of you sitting in your seat or
Yeah.
walking or yeah.
So when we got to the game, there was no signs of filming whatsoever. But I had taken my oldest daughter and my cousin who I grew up with and my best friend. So it was us four. So midway through the game, and then it was a big game because it was the Braves who at the time were like one of the best teams in baseball. The Dodgers, we weren't so good, but I've always been a loyal fan. So I appreciate the sport and the stars and, everything about the game. So I always, when I'm there, I pay attention to everything, the game, and I love being there, that environment. So, I'm into the game and my daughter wanted snacks. So I said, let's go now. It was like about midway through the game. I go, I don't want to miss the rest later. So we went, I got her snacks. I think I even bought a hat. And then on the way back, we couldn't go into our aisle because there's cameras. And I thought, wow, like, how cool is this? They're filming something. And I said, let me get in front of the camera, but joking around, never imagining that, it would help prove my innocence. And, when I try to walk around, initially I couldn't because the PA, the production assistant's like, hey, he put his arm up. He's like, hey, I'm sorry, do you mind holding a minute? We're going to film. I go, oh yeah, no problem. I'm cool like that. So, I'm holding my daughter's hand and I'm watching the game and he's down here like kneeling down and I could see like out of my peripheral vision, he looked at me like from head to toe. He looked at my daughter and almost like if someone told him, let him go walk down because nobody else was being let down. And if you see the outtakes, there's nobody going up and down those aisles except Larry David. And he says, hey, just go ahead. And I was like, wow, really? I got so excited. I grabbed my daughter's hand and that's the video that is shown there. I actually cut Larry David off. And this was what weird to me because as Larry's walking up, I'm walking down, which shouldn't have happened. So when this guy let me down, it was almost like, why did he do that? And even Larry David, when he came up to my section, he was like, he grabbed his head and he was like frustrated that, this guy let me down and we cut him off. And, I was just like, oops. And I walked into my aisle and I was just hoping, man, I hope that guy doesn't get fired for letting me down. But that was the piece of evidence that was, played in court. And I remember like hearing like just gasps of people when they saw that video, like, wow. But you would think that that would be enough to prove my innocence. It wasn't.
Why not?
Because again, I'm telling you the time code there. So it was only
Oh.
9/11.
Yep.
So Todd had to piece this thing together
The
like
rest,
a
yeah.
jigsaw puzzle.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
then with the tickets, I always collect all my tickets from like sporting events. And the final piece was the phone call because I received a phone call at 10:11. I remember as we're walking out of the game, the Dodgers had lost. We're losing and the score was 4-4 in the ninth. And the Braves scored 7 runs in the top of the ninth. I go, we're not coming back. Let's go. So as we're walking out, it was about 10:11. I received a phone call. And I remember clearly that phone call. And as we're walking out, so that phone call was crucial because ironically, the cell phone tower that phone call pinged off of was in the LAPD Police Academy, which is right across the street from Dodger Stadium. And that cell tower only has a 1-mile radius. So it will not pick up any calls outside of that 1 mile. But that proved with the video and the phone call that I was indeed still at Dodger Stadium. And it was still a fight. Like it was just, I was literally fighting for my life. They wanted to accuse me. I felt like I was being framed that like throughout the stages of that.
Like at this point, is it the judge that has something against you that won't let it out, like won't let you go,
No,
or what?
not the judge, the district
Yeah,
attorney. The district
the district
attorney
attorney.
and the police.
So
Like
were you framed?
I believe so. Todd, my attorney, heard rumblings because that girl who was a witness in another murder case gets murdered. and there's nobody arrested in a gap of 3 months. Do you know how
They
bad
they needed something,
you know
yeah.
how bad that makes them look?
And did you have any tie to any of that or no?
No,
Uh,
I never
the
knew this
murder
girl.
yeah,
I
yeah.
never nothing whatsoever.
So so they were feeling the heat, it's been 3
They
months,
had terrible theories. My brother was involved in a serious got in trouble, but it had nothing to do with her.
with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like, where is the connection here? And they're like, "No, you did this to help your brother." I go, "We didn't know her. Like, she has nothing to do." I even asked for a lie detector test that they said no. Like, when does the accused ask for a lie detector test? And it was like at that point that I'm like, "Wait a minute. This
They
is
don't want you
something
out.
beyond. They don't want
Yeah.
me." Yes. And then the prosecutor, the DA, the district attorney, had never lost a case. Never. 100% conviction rate. And all she did was like hardcore gang cases. And I'm there up against this woman who to me had no soul. Like her face, I don't know. She had like no emotion, no, I don't know. Either she's great at her job or that lady, I don't know, soulless.
So 6 months in, and then you get how do you find out? Who makes the phone call to you? How do you was it in court? Was it when you were in your cell? Like, how did you find out that you were getting out?
Oh, so as Todd was piecing along everything, you know, with that cell phone call, that was the last piece. He says, "Okay." Now, I even snapped at him like midway and, you know, I apologized later, but I was just frustrated and I was like beyond angry because we had the video of myself. And when he found that, I was like, "Okay, I'm home. I'm out." And no, it wasn't. He's like, "No, Juan, they're gonna say that no, you left." And I said, "Todd, you know, we paid you all this money. I know it's not a lot to you, but it is to us. We have the video, we have tickets. Why am I still here?" And you know, Juan, man, I love that man so much. He just calmly as could be. He's like, "Juan, I understand your frustration, but I need more." And that's what led to him asking questions, and which ultimately why we ended up with the phone call, because with that he felt confident. Now, okay, they cannot he felt like the defense was solid, and
Yeah,
we went to
there's
court.
no whole yeah.
Yeah, we went to court, and they still put up a fight because they were blindsided with our evidence, but Todd had no right. And then they were just like, you know, it's very disappointing with people in authority. And then, like, I mean, forget that. Like today, what's happening in the country is just like very disappointing when you have people in power that just are not doing their job. Like, and it just, I don't know, it's disheartening. And, you know, once Todd showed this evidence on day one of the preliminary hearing, they put up an argument that Todd never shared the evidence, but he had no right to. The lawyer, the attorneys are only supposed to present our evidence to the other side 30 days before trial. We were way before trial. This was preliminary hearing. By law, he had no right to prove or provide evidence to them.
So they're going through the process, now they're trying to see where he could have messed up somewhere,
Yes.
but they could
So
still keep you behind bars
yes.
and throw
So
yeah.
the judge was sided with them, which was also disappointing. So there was like a continuance of 2 weeks because they said that they didn't receive the evidence. So Todd had to hand it over, and we had a 2-week wait. I spent in I spent in jail Christmas and New Year's when I should have gone home. And all they did was they got a view of every evidence we had. And even then, the district attorney could have said, "You know what? I dismissed this case," and she didn't. So we kept going. We came back. And then after Todd put up the incredible defense, and they still were fighting. And I was afraid because I felt like Todd and I against the world. It seemed like the judge is on their side. Like, what's going to happen here? But ultimately, you know, on day 3 of the preliminary hearing, the judge said that as hard as the prosecution side wanted to present their case, their evidence, they didn't have a murder weapon. They didn't have, you know, like my DNA or anything like that. They had one eyewitness who was under extreme stress in the 11 o'clock at night under extreme circumstances. and he had chosen two other people before me. So she says, there's no way, as much as he thinks he could be credible, I don't see that. And I order Mr. Catalan to be free. And that was an incredible moment. It felt like the weight of the world was just, lifted off my back. And, I found out later that the courtroom was so packed and they just like broke out in applause because in court there's rumblings and all these people. What started off as maybe just the deceased girl's family there, like by the last day, it was like completely full of people. And it broke out into cheers when the judge released me.
So did you get to go home that day?
Yes, yes, I got to go home that day.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I can't I have so many questions for you. Like, were you a religious person before you went in there?
I don't consider myself a religious person, but we grew up Catholic, so we knew that we had to go to church on Sundays,
Yeah.
but we never really it's hard to pay attention. I don't know if you've ever been in the Catholic church.
The good thing about the Catholic Church is, like, they do the same. My ex-husband was Catholic, so, like, it was all the same thing every time, so if I, like, dozed off or
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, here we're here in the hour."
Well
Right?
well,
This is what I'm supposed to do next,
so
but yeah.
here in LA, it's all Hispanics. Well, everyone seems to think that it's like a daycare because all these babies are there and everyone's crying and you cannot hear the sermon. And it's like how you were saying, I was just like dozing off and I have, I know it's, all the steps that we're going through. I'm like, okay, we're here now. Okay, we're almost done.
But you wouldn't say that you were, like, a big believer in God or that you prayed?
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, I believe in God 100%. And
and you always have in your life, or was this kind of a new thing when you went in there? I guess another way to ask it is that woman told you to pray. Were you somebody that, like, prayed on your own outside of church on a regular
I
basis? Was
did.
that like
I kind of had like a rough childhood. And then in my teenage years, I lost my favorite uncle. And that was like the first time that I lost someone close to me. And I think that's where the anxiety kicked in. And the sad part about that is I never had anyone to talk to about it. So I held everything inward, which is like the worst thing you can do. So I was like scared, depressed, anxious, just growing up here. And then I met the mother of my kids, my first girlfriend. And, that relationship wasn't the best. And it just seemed like, up until my 20s, like it just like, is this my life? Like I didn't see like a future or, I didn't have any goals or dreams. And it wasn't until incredibly that this horrifying experience happened to me that I was like almost forced to trust and believe in God. And my mom, who is more of a religious person, she has like this incredible gift of, I believe that her prayers are heard. And she was the person that was in my ear telling me that this injustice would not prevail, that God would see me through this. And all I saw was darkness, reality, and all these thoughts that we were talking about earlier, like my life is gonna end here. Like I didn't even live, like I didn't experience life. Or I had two daughters who were 4 and 6. I'm like, that's all gone. I just couldn't understand. And I would have never imagined that that would have made me and shifted me into who I am today and what I did and was able to accomplish, and places I've never been to around the world, people that I would have never imagined I would meet. And in just something so negative, and how it brought incredible positive results, like amazing. I couldn't, I never graduated high school because I thought education wasn't important. In there, something clicked that, in jail, facing in the jail cell, sitting in a cell was like, I realized like I hadn't done anything with my life. And I promised myself in God that if I had a second chance, I would go back to school. And upon my release, I went to like an occupational center. I studied, I got my GED. Then I went to community college and I got my associate's degree. Then I transferred to Cal State University in Northridge. And this past May, 5 months ago, I got a bachelor's degree in business administration
Yay!
and
I
just
love
finished
that.
writing a book. Incredible. So, I just, if you would have told me, hey, my 17-year-old self, 18-year-old or 20-year-old, like, hey, check this out. You're going to fight a murder case that you can look at the death penalty. You're going to go through, all this trauma, but yet all this is going to be the result. You're going to go to the university, you're going to graduate, and you're going to write a book. I would have been like, man, that's for sure the script for a movie, for sure.
It's also that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's
And a book
yeah,
as well. So, I being a high performance coach and always having conversations about mental toughness and fortitude, is there anything that you learned during that time when you were in there? Like, do you feel like part of your survival was all of it the distraction of now you had to shift and go, okay, well, shoot, now I'm in here and now I got all these people that I have to keep myself safe from and I have to figure out the politics and I have to find an ally. Was that really a big piece of your survival? And or was there anything that you learned? Did you learn anything, any tactics? Did you pray? How did you calm yourself down? Because what I have never been in a situation like that before, but when the tension is high and the stress is high, sometimes the nervous system kicks in so much that you can't even see straight, let alone catch your breath and figure out your next step. Did you have moments like that? Did you learn anything of like how did you get back and have control of yourself?
absolutely. As a child, I always asked questions like, why do we exist? How is it that we're in space, just,
Did you
hanging
ask
there?
this like in your head or did you ask this to other people?
To myself and then
Yeah.
sometimes to my teachers. But, you know, in there was words that I had no idea what they meant, but I know that I now built that inside of me, which was resilience, mental fortitude, perseverance. Like, though that is the definition of what I went through, and without even knowing it, was building inside of me. The calmness that I had was, I thank my mom for that, because even though I would call my young daughters when I had a chance, they made me happy, but only for those 5 minutes I was able to speak to them, because once we hung up, my mind went crazy again, like thinking like, "Wait, I can't protect them. I can't guide them." And I was the type of father that I promised when my oldest and the second one, when they were born, that I was gonna be the best dad ever. So I would pick them up, take them to school, I would pick them up, I would help them with their homework, just try to do my best as a father, because I felt like in reality at that time that was probably the only thing I was good at, was being a father. And then that was ripped away from me and them. And I was told later that my oldest daughter, like, she was only 6, but she was a happy little girl, and then she shut down. She, like, and it was because of my absence, and that even made me more angry. So the only calm that came was from my mom, and she would give me scriptures to read and over, and that's what I did. God's protection, like in the Psalms, Psalm 91, which is my favorite, Psalm 23, and then, just other passages that calmed my mind as best I could. And then I would go to church. So in there you can, to be not being yourself, you can go to church and you can go to school. So I would go to church to pray and, have ask for peace and just to clear my name, to prove my innocence, number one. And then in school is where I'm telling you earlier that it clicked, because it's here you have grown men and they're being taught what we learn in elementary, which are like states and capitals and stuff like that. So it's like, what have you been doing? Like, I always thought I was somewhat smart. So, I was like, you know what? You need to do something. And that's when I, made that promise that, I would go back to school. And, I'm so glad that not only did I do it for myself, but I set the example for my kids. And this past May, I graduated, which is blows me away. I graduated with my daughter. When my oldest daughter, the one that was with me at the game, we walked the stage together, and we couldn't have wrote this any better. And it just
Oh my gosh, I love
a
that. Does she
blessing.
remember this at all? Or d
Very
like, did
little, very little.
yeah,
She
probably
remembers.
remembers more about what people say than
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and, some of it bothered her, but, she would, remembers one time because I was locked up between August and all the way to January. During there, it was Halloween. So Alma, the mother of my kids, she dressed them up and took them down to jail because in their costumes. But there was a fight in the inmates and we got locked down and everybody was sent home. So they drove down an hour just to try to see me and they didn't. She remembers that, remembers being sad that she couldn't see me. But now when she looks back, and I talk about it a lot in the book, that this is, her story. She does the conclusion, which is amazing. It actually brought me to tears. She writes the conclusion and, I'm just so grateful, and I thank God that I got a second chance in life is the way I look at it. And I've been blessed with three incredible children. My son would not have been born if I wouldn't have been released. But yeah, just amazing.
So why 20, 23, 20? I mean, I know you started the book before now, but why, 20 plus years after this incident did you decide to write the book? What is in that book? What are you sharing? Because you've been, like you said, on 60 Minutes. You've been in other countries on TV shows. They've done a Netflix documentary on this. What is in that book that you have not shared yet? Can you tell just a little bit to my audience and anybody who's going to listen to this? What are you teaching us? What are you sharing in there?
So even though this was 1 years ago, I was not able to speak about it like I am today. When this happened, I wanted to erase it from my memory. I wanted to run from it. Didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I wanted to pretend like it didn't. Wanted to bury it deep down in my mind. But I now know that this had to happen, and not only that, I need to use it. It's part of my story, and I need to use it to try to inspire or motivate anyone I can, because the feedback from, I'm trying to run away from this thing, what happened to me, but people run towards it. And
Yes, I did. I'm like,
it,
wait a second. Wait, who is that guy? Where
it,
is he?
it doesn't go away. So
No.
it doesn't go away, and I probably spent like the better part of like 7 years, not I'm totally being serious, of like serious anxiety, PTSD. I was having all these tests at the doctor. I told them that something was wrong with me, when it was just, the aftermath of what had happened. And it wasn't until, we were approached to do this documentary that I did as a favor. I didn't want to do the documentary like for personal reasons. I didn't want to do it, but my attorney, Todd, was like, please, I need this for, to put my face out there. And like, how could I say no to this man? Like, okay. And the feedback that were received from around the world, like, I couldn't believe it. These places that I've never visited to, I all of a sudden have friends all over the world, and they're like, come to the Netherlands, come to Australia, come to Brazil, come to Turkey, come to England. Like, all these people that just showed me like just genuine like love. And like, I can't tell you how much that meant to me, even till this day, when somebody recognizes me and, ask for a photo or something, even at the bank. And it's like, I'll be in a restaurant and the waiter comes, they're like, oh, they paid for your meal. I can't tell you who did it. They sent you drinks. And I'm like, wow, like just incredible. So after the documentary was released, which was 7, 8 years ago, people wanted more. And I'm like, well, I'm not an actor. I don't have an agent. I don't do anything. They're like, well, you got to do something. You got to make a movie or, write a book. And I'm like, well, somewhat okay at writing. So I said, you know what, maybe I'll write a book. And so the documentary came out in 2018. 2 years later, the pandemic hits and we're stuck at home with nothing to do. And I start writing a book. I just started writing. And it took me about the better part of 3 years to finish writing this book, on and off, on and off. And what it is, it's just a collection of stories from my childhood, all up in through my teenage years to what I faced during the false accusations to the results of all that incredible stories and anecdotes that people have said, dude, that's no way. And, it's just kind of like how you say these things just happen. And it's just, I just decided to, write about it and put it. And the feedback that I've received so far is incredible. It's completely humbling and it's just amazing. I just feel I'm so grateful that I was able to put this into a book. Greg Reed, that helped me publish this. Shout out to Greg. And just to share this with the world. I want to know that your past does not define your future. Don't ever let anyone define you or tell you what you can't do. And anybody who, you know, thinks that they can't be anything, like, please believe me, you can. Like, if I did it, like, I don't consider myself special. I refuse to quit. And it's just, God gave me this spirit of a warrior, this gigantic heart of just, of empathy. And just, I want to share my light with the world and try to make the world a better place. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, you're doing it. You are. I could just like I said, I could just feel your energy before we were at Greg Reed's event in Secret Knox, and you just had like it seemed like 5 minutes up there, and we're all like, "No, we need more. We need to wait a second. I have all these follow up questions. I need to ask my my follow up
Thank you so much,
questions
Kristy.
to him, but." I just feel like there's so many lessons, right? So there's two ways to influence people. You can tell them stories, you can put them in an experience. Just hearing your story and hearing the things that you've had to go through, and you're just you. You were wrongly convicted. You're a great man. Yes, we've all made mistakes. We've all sinned. That does not mean that you should be wrongly convicted of this and sit the rest of your life. But how did you get through those moments? But, you know how many people in this life they may not be facing something that big, but there are things that they're facing, and they just would rather choose to lay it down or not fight that fight because maybe it's easier or because they've done something wrong in their past and they feel like that's part of their identity. That's bullshit. That's not part of their identity. We grow and we evolve and we learn. We're human beings. That is just the nature of all of this. And what you said, I think, at the end there is so incredibly powerful. Do not let anybody tell you who the hell you are. And you have no quit. And it really is the person that has no quit, the person that knows who they are, not what somebody tells them they are. You know exactly who you are. You know that you're a good person, and you have no quit, and you have faith. And if there's one thing that we all have to grab onto something for hope to get us through another day. There's a piece of all of this that I'd like you to talk about for a second, and it's forgiveness, because these men framed you. They needed to get the pressure off themselves and they framed you. Did you carry hate or anger at all? I know you've forgiven them, but did you carry that?
You know, first of all, I love everything that you just said, like in the last 2 minutes. I agree with you 100%, just beautifully said. And the difference between, winners and quitters is just a quitter just tried one more time. Then
That's it.
that's it.
That's it,
That's
man.
it.
I see it every day and I'm like, listen, the person, she has what you want because she just tried one more time and she's found a way to have emotional neutrality. The stuff like it feels like a missile, and then you got to get it to a point where it feels like a dart. And then it feels like a toothpick and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what you throw at me. I know the truth. I know who I am, and I'm going to keep on going. And the faster we can get to that point where, and it's okay if, I feel like we should feel things. We should let the emotions out. I get mad. I get sad. I don't bottle it down. It comes out. But something that used to take 7 days to get over maybe takes 7 minutes, then 7 seconds. Then it's like, whatever, man. Right. So just pay attention. I always say, pay attention to your recovery time. You know your truth. And to be able to get to that period of neutrality.
Yeah, just brush it off and keep going.
Yeah, and
Everyone,
forgiveness
yeah.
is. I've heard you talk a little bit about forgiveness, and I'm thinking that maybe this is a piece of how you've gotten to where you are now.
Yeah, so
Did you
again,
let that go?
yeah, God gave me this gift of just having an incredible heart. I've been in witnessed and experienced like a lot of wrongs in my life. I refuse to hold on to hate and resentment because I truly believe that it is poison. And many people, I think, when they hold on to that, they think they're hurting that other person when in reality, they're only hurting themselves. And, when this happened to me, people that I didn't know, strangers, were angry for me. They're like, you know what? Fuck the police and just, fuck that district attorney. And it's like, dude, you gotta, stick it to them. And I'm like, my mom taught me, you know, Jesus, said it best that forgiveness is something that is for you, not them. Like, it's not, you don't forgive someone to, for them. You do it for yourself. And it's not condoning their actions, but it just makes you feel lighter because we all know that life can just weigh us down with so much. Like, you don't need, there's too much negativity, too much evil in this world that you shouldn't add more to your plate that you need to. And it's just like, I choose to release that and I give that up to God. Like, God says, vengeance is his, not yours. It's not, about getting even with this person. It's about finding that peace within yourself to move on. Because if you stay there, and I think that that's the mistake that many people make, is I was wronged. They did me wrong and I'm going to have to make them pay them back. That energy that you're using and you're just draining yourself can be used in such a better way, as just as far as like focusing on yourself and just, you don't need to prove your point. I that's about just my own opinion. It's just like, whatever happens to you, that's not a reflection of you, that's a reflection of them. So, you can just, I tell people, forgive and forget. And I know that it's easier said than done, but when you just, I believe, focus on yourself and what you can control and just you try to be better than you were yesterday, your results are going to just be like incredible. And let that other person deal with their own karma because they will come. And I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. It's just basically the golden rule: do to others, do unto others as you would, like for them to do to you. Is just such an amazing rule because you know what? And it's just being kind doesn't cost any money, and everyone is always going through something, and it just, you never know what someone else, your person next to you, is going through, whether it's a sick relative, sick parent, broken relationship, an illness, whatever it is. It's just, we're all going through things that it just, I think being kind, I'd say that that's one of my superpowers. That is just like, I think that if anyone had a excuse to be bitter and just give up, that'd be me. And I refuse to. And God gave me this power that, to like how you were saying earlier, like if I like get frustrated or I'm having a bad day and I'm like, you know what? That's it. I'm giving up. And it's like, that may last a couple hours, but then it's like, no, get up and let's go again. And I just thank God Almighty that, that's just what I have. I have no quit. And it's just, I will not stop until, I want to get to where I want and get to I want to experience the best things that life has to offer. That's what I want to do. I want to travel the world. I want to be in an incredible relationship. I want to be happy. I want to be successful, and I want to give back and I want to help others. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. That's to me that's growth, contribution, love and connection. That's where the real magic is of life. It took me a long time of achievement and holding grudges, I think, to realize all of that. But I think a lot of people think that if you forgive, then you have to keep those people in your life. And you don't, that you can forgive them, but then you can put a damn boundary up
Yeah, you
and
can
you don't
love,
have to
you
be
can love,
ugly.
you can
You
love
don't
them.
have to be ugly, you just don't have to respond. I tell people every day, like, I wake up and I have this much battery. If I think about Kristy Kuhl, I got this much battery. Who's going to get my time? Like nobody else, but it takes some reps. It takes some reps of having things. People hurt you, people do bad things to you. And then you get to a point where you're just like, oh, whatever. And you're right. The universe will take care. God will take care of all of that. And the more we focus on it, the more we're taken away from the beautiful things. And it's hard sometimes to get out of our own way. It's hard to reach for those, to think that we're meant for these opportunities or why me or whatever. And so I always tell people like, this is a big mountain we're climbing here. So as much of that stuff that you can release, the better. But two final questions here for you. This could go on forever, but I want to be respectful of your day here. Why did this happen to you? Like, do you know why this happened? If there's a lot, like, what's the reason why?
I did a podcast the other day, and that guy could not get past that question. Why?
Yeah.
Why? He was just
Yeah.
like, and his thought process, sort of like yours, it just, to me, it's like, I love this. Like, just listening to different perspectives. And it's just like, it makes you think, you see a different perspective and how certain people view things. So he just could not get past, like, why? Like, he just kept asking that over and over. I'm not sure yet, but I think when we were doing, once we got, after I was released, Good Morning America flew us out to New York. And I had never been to New York. I was afraid of flying. I had only been on one flight when I was like 8 years old.
You're
And I
like,
told
dude, I was just next to real murderers.
Yes,
I'm good. I'll
yeah.
get on the plane now.
And Tom's
I'm
like,
good.
Good Morning America wants to fly us
I'm
out.
not even gonna wear my seatbelt.
Yeah, put us up in a hotel, and you're gonna be on all these TV shows. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not. And he's like, yes, you are. And we went, had a beautiful, amazing experience. And for the most part, all the interviews were the same, but there was one at the end that she kind of blew me away with. And it was an ex-judge. I don't know if you remember that channel, Court TV. It was
Yeah.
Court TV. And she was an ex-judge, Catherine Cryer, I believe is her name. And she said at the end of the interview, she says, well, Mr. Catalan, it seems like you have some very important things left to do here on Earth. And I was like, whoa, like I had never thought about it that way. And, like I was telling you earlier, I've always asked why. Like, why do I exist? What am I supposed to do? Why does things happen? Why? And a period of after I was released from jail that I'm telling you, I had about 7 years of just like really, really bad. I was having nightmares. I was having panic attacks. I was just having just a really, really bad time. And I just wanted to, like, pretty much, like, I couldn't get over that fact. Like, at times, like, I didn't want to exist because I'm like, I just went through all this and now I'm suffering with all this. Like, why? And I remember just from like self-reflection and so much reading and trying to understand what anxiety was and all this stuff, I came across on the internet and it said something like, if you feel this way, get up, take out a notepad and just start writing things until something that makes you cry. And I was like, what the heck? I'll try it. So I just started writing down things like, I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful that my parents are alive. Thank God for our business. And I just kept writing and writing and writing. And you know what made me cry?
What?
It was that I wrote down to share my light with the world. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they said, when you find that, like that's your why. So, I
I
mean,
believe that. I felt it the moment that I saw you.
I don't feel special, and I don't know what did I do to deserve, I don't know, whatever documentary or whatever, like the recognition or whatever it is, that I don't consider myself famous or anything like that. It's just grace is what I did learn is when you hear about God's grace, it's grace is unmerited favor. It's like you didn't do anything to deserve it. It's just, given to us, and it's, by God Almighty. So it's like, I don't know. I write that in the book because a lot of times in my life, ever since, even before I was born, I can see where God was looking over me. And it's just like a big part of this book. I want to also share God's goodness with the world and how he's always been watching over me for sure.
And, just to it's always so much easier to see the movie in reverse. 20 years later to be like, "Oh, this," and I remember when I first opened the door to personal development, it was right when I was going through a bad divorce, and Tony Robbins was like my entry point into personal development, and he said, "Man, if you're gonna blame, blame effectively." It was something like that, and, so if you're gonna blame all the bad stuff, the good stuff, the bad stuff, blame the good stuff too, and so, like, I look back and, it's easy to focus on the bad things or the things that you didn't have, but then to realize all the beautiful lessons and things that were there, and then the moment that you can surrender and accept that you are enough just exactly the way that you are, does not mean that we're not striving to be better and to learn and to say things differently right? But just to realize that you're put on this earth for your light to shine. And letting that light shine and realizing that this is my job today is to let this fricking light shine as bright as possible. And I know you know this. Like this, that changes the world. That changes like you're somebody's moment all the time. If you just believe that you are enough exactly the way that you are, and whatever is supposed to come out of your mouth is going to come out of your mouth. Whatever they're supposed to feel is it's just going to happen. Such a lightness to realizing that I believe that that's your purpose.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Yeah. But
that.
and also, now you have all these lessons, so you can tell people, "This is what I did. I don't know about you, but this is what helped me," and that's enough right there. I started writing. I read this thing. I don't know. My mom told me to pray. I don't right? Laughter. Like, I think we overcomplicate a lot of this stuff when it's just like, man, just recognize that who you are is enough, and then just get loud and get better at being who you are.
Yeah, it was a hard time to it took me a while to recognize that, and like I told you, like, I now know that this is part of me. So, on Monday, I'm gonna go speak at a high school, and
Yes, I
I'm gonna
love it.
I'm gonna gift the kids my book, so it's like 50 kids, they're super hyped. I'm hyped myself. So and they're from lower incomes, and it's like basically my upbringing is like I'm gonna go speak to my younger self and 50 of my younger self. So it's like I can't wait. I'm excited, and I wanna share everything that I thought of all the lies that I believed when I was younger and how, I allowed that to manipulate my time at my life at that time and how, what is it that they should truly be focused on and, which is education, being a good person and, respectful and stuff like that. And it's just let them know that they can be anything that they want to be if they're willing to put in the effort and sacrifices, which is that's the truth. I wish I had that when I was younger. So I've always see that. I saw it last time on somebody's sweater. It said, "Be the person that you didn't have growing up," and I love that. So it's just like a lot of times it would make me sad because it's like I wish I had somebody when I was growing up to believe in me, to tell me to motivate me, and I didn't. A lot of things I just didn't. I love sports so much, and maybe the one dream I had when I was younger was to play basketball. I wanted to be a professional basketball player for the Lakers. That was like my dream, my one dream. But, I was afraid and I just didn't pursue it because I just, fed into the bullshit that, my cousins would make fun of me and they're like, "Oh, you can't be, a basketball player," which was not true, but and I was a pretty decent player too. But with my son now, I'm totally the opposite. I tell him, "You can be whatever you want to be. I believe in you. I love you. Like, doesn't matter what you do. I'm proud of you, and I'm here for you." And just everything that I didn't have, I am now instilling and have instilled in my children and anyone else for that matter that wants to take it as such.
I love that. Beautifully, beautifully said. Last question. This podcast is called Keep Rising. Because I think you're so much closer than I can see that you're so much closer than you think that you are. And I just want people to keep on going. I want them to try again. I want them to get up again. What would you say to somebody who feels like quitting?
Don't believe the lies because it's human nature to gravitate towards the negativity. I don't know why, but it just feels good to indulge in when you're stuck. It just, I don't know if you why it feels comforting to not, oh, woe is me, but just know that you are not what you think or what anyone else says about you. You can write your own story, and don't ever believe a lot of the times when people can't do something for themselves, they'll tell you how you can't do it. And please, please take it from me that you can literally experience the worst of the worst that life has to offer and still rise. Like, I never imagined that what I went through and everything that came from it was possible, but it only came because I didn't give up. And I had those voices in my head that said, you're wasting your time. Why are you doing this? You're going to make a fool of yourself. And, I even had family members telling me, hey, why are you going back to school? You're older. Like all this, stuff that tries to come against you. But if you just believe in yourself, that's the only opinion that should matter is yourself. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. And if no one ever has ever told you they believe in you, I'm telling you, I believe in you, and you can do whatever you put your mind to. I promise you that is the truth.
Yeah. That an amen, and second everything you say. What a great way to end all of this. I can't thank you enough for saying, I know your schedule's crazy busy. You just launched a book. Everybody go get it. Played. It's out. Order Played. Juan Catalan, thank you so much for being here. You are such a blessing.
Thank you, Kristy. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.